Hi everyone, welcome back to Stamp with Anna, and today I'm going to show you this cool technique, and it's done with embossing powder and white craft ink. And I just love the effect that you get from the technique. I did do this a while back, but I think it's been a few years, so I thought I would do it again. It is late fall, it is late spring, and sunflowers are being planted around my house. They have such a special meaning to my family, so I decided to do the technique with sunflowers. And so I am using the Celebrate Sunflower stamp set. I'm going to use this large stamp right there. So the first thing I'm going to do is bring in some scrap paper, and I have a piece of Blackberry Bliss, and this is cut at 3 3/4 by 5. And I'm going to stamp my sunflower on my paper. Now I have to keep in mind that I do want this little tag here, so when I position my first main sunflower, I have to leave enough space on the bottom corner there to accommodate that. So I'm going to stamp right about there, straight down, straight up. Now I know you can't see that on camera because it is just Versamark, but trust me, it's there. And scooch that out of the way and do one last one up in the corner here. And I know I've used this stamp set quite a bit in the last few months doing different types of techniques, but I don't think I've done it with the white craft ink in a while. So there is my Versamark sunflower. Now I'm going to bring in some clear embossing powder. And I want to just lift this. I'm going to grab it by the corner that has no, I really should have used my Stampin' Buddy, but I always forget. I'm going to grab that by the corner that has no embossing on it. I'm going to flick everything off, and I'm going to turn it over and just with a soft paintbrush just brush off any stray flakes. Now when I know a lot of people are a little intimidated about heat embossing on dark paper such as black, Night of Navy, or this rich raspberry. That's more so if you're using white embossing powder, because you inevitably end up with spots. Because we're using clear here, if you miss a little flake, it's not going to show up that much. So that's one way to still be able to do that nice embossing on dark paper if you don't like the outcome of the white, excuse me. So my heat tool is heated up, and I'm just going to start in this corner here, and I'm just going to emboss one of these just so you can see the effect, and then I'll go off camera and finish the rest. So you can see right up in this corner here, it's starting to, the embossing powder is starting to melt, and there it is like magic, kind of shining. Isn't that beautiful? Now you do want to be careful. You don't want to overheat your embossing powder. If you do, you run the risk of scorching it, and then you won't get the effect of the embossing powder at all. So you do want to always keep your gun moving. See how it's going in a little circular manner here? And I like to do it sequentially. So like if I start in this corner here, I'm going to just go kind of in order so that I can see where it's going, and I'm not all over the page, and I'm doing section by section, which usually ends up with better results. And when I'm done, I will always go back to make sure that even though I did do it section by section and in an organized way, to make sure that I didn't forget any spots. So since I just only have this one left, I will just finish on camera with you. And see, it's going just beautifully, nice and quickly, because my heat tool was good and heated up, which is important. And I just love heat embossing. I just think the effect is so nice, and it's so simple to do. I find myself not doing enough of it, and every so often I'll go into spurts where that's all I do, and I believe I've been doing that for a while now. last month I think I did quite a few embossing projects. Whether or not they made it to YouTube, that's a different story. Sometimes I make them and they just end up not going anywhere but in my card file or to someone that I need a card for. And there we go. So this appears to be all embossed. So what I'm going to do is just hold it up and see, oh, right there, I just missed a spot, and see where I think I've missed a spot. And I apologize if this is off camera, but my cord to my embossing heat tool is kind of short. All right, so there we go. Now our embossing is all done. You see that? I don't know if you can see that nice shine. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in my white craft ink pad. Now this ink pad, they've been reconfigured. This is an old one. When you get it now, it comes with a re-inker. I believe it comes uninked, and then you re-ink it yourself. The ink is the re-inker is very, very thick, and a lot of times people feel that they have gotten effective one, but it is not. Mine, I will tell you, I ran out of re-inker, and it's not as juicy as it should be, but I'm still going to get the same effect. So what I have here is a block, an acrylic block, and I'm going to ink that up on my ink pad. And you can see, now I have my little ink pad is right there. And I'm going to come in with an aqua painter, and I'm just going to I want to make sure I have nothing on that. I'm going to pump some water into that, so you can see there my hand is wet, so I have water flowing. And I'm just going to put it on my stamped pad and just brush, color all my leaves in. And depending on how much water you've put, and you only want to just get the water on that tip once. You don't want to keep squeezing water in there. Depending on how much water you have and how much you've watered that down, that affects the color or the depth of your white. And if you find that it's too light, just re-ink your block and go over it. And then I'm just going to keep doing this. I'm going to do this off camera, and I will come back when it's done. Okay, I'm done with all of my initial coloring, and I can see that I want this to be a little darker. So what I've done is re-inked my stamp pad, and without squeezing any more water into my blender, my water pen, I'm just going to color over where I want it to be a little darker, and you can see that it does come out darker. Now this obviously is going to dry, and it might dry a little lighter, but at least it has a nice white base that I wanted. And as soon as I finish adding a little bit more to the spots where I wanted it to be more white, I will start assembling the card. You can really get carried away with it. Shading and whatnot. I'm not a big colorer, so I don't get into the whole shading thing because honestly I'm not very good at it. So I try to do minimal coloring. Okay, so I think I am happy with that. And before I ruin it, I'm going to leave it alone. So you do want that to dry because the craft paper, the craft ink does take longer to dry. So what I'm going to do before I start assembling this is I'm just going to run my heat tool over that. And that's going to help to dry that. If you're scared of scorching your embossing powder, you can certainly dry it from the back. And that will help get that ink nice and dry. And although we didn't use a lot of ink and a lot of water, if you feel like your purple embossing is kind of become opaque, just come in with a cloth and wipe it, and that will bring your embossed part of the flower back up so you can see that. So you can still see the nice shiny embossing. So now I have a piece of basic white, and this is 3 7/8 by 5 1/8, and I'm just going to mount that onto my my white. Now you'll notice, because it has water, your card base here has water, it's a little distorted. It's not nice and flat anymore. And I'm going to show you how we're going to attach that to our card front and keep it flat. Now, Stampin' Up! Sells these awesome adhesive strips. These are called foam adhesive strips. And this would be the best way to attach this. You would just cut your foam strips and put them all along the top. And that's what I recommend you using. If, however, you don't have those, remember, I'm always telling you to save the ends of your Stampin' Dimensional packets when you're done using them. And this is why. We're going to use this in the same way we would use those foam strips. So the first thing I'm going to do is snip the ends. This is the longer end, so I'm going to put that on the long side of my card. Okay, and then I have this smaller side, the smaller piece, and I'm going to put that on the short side. And then I'm going to take the rest of these and just piece it together so that I'm getting the same effect as if I were using foam strips, which would be the easiest way to go. But like I said, use what you have. And if you don't have foam strips, your leftovers from your Stampin' Dimensionals work perfectly fine. So I'm going to use that one there. And then I have a little piece here. And I still have more left over. I'm telling you, they go a long way. So now I'm just going to peel all these off. And I have a little bit of peeling to do because I have this one here, I had to piecemeal it. But once you put it on, you can't tell that you have all of these little pieces here. It's just going to fit. It's going to attach just like as if you had used the foam strips. So now, remembering that I want this big side on the bottom, I'm going to attach this to my Blackberry Bliss card base, which is 4 1/4 by 11 scored at 5 1/2. Now, I have already stamped and die cut my sentiment. This, just for you, comes from the Sweet Strawberry stamp set. And the little banner comes from the Tasteful Label dies, which is all of these dies here, which is great. And I used this one here for it. And I'm just going to attach that to that little spot. Now, when I attach this, I don't want it right up to here, so it butts up to my Blackberry Bliss. I don't want that. And I don't want it on the edge of the white, so it butts up to that. I want to bring it over so that's in the middle of this here. And that just adds a little bit more interest to the design. Now I'm going to bring in some jewels because I love jewels and I love bling. So I'm going to scatter them around. One up top. One between there. And one last one down here. And the last thing I have to do is make a place for me to write on the inside of my card. And this is basic white, and it's cut at 4 by 5 1/4. And I'm just going to drop that on the inside, and it's ready for me to write. It can be a birthday card. I'll just write happy birthday in there. It can be a thank you card, anything. So there it is. Isn't that simple? It's a beautiful card. I love the effect. I like that little whitewash on it, and it's quick and easy. So if you like this project, I'd love it if you would give my video a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you do not have a demonstrator with whom you work, certainly contact me through my blog, www.stampwithanna.blogspot.com, and I'll be happy to send you out a brand new catalog that just went live a couple weeks ago. If you have any questions at all, please contact me. I'm always happy to answer. Thanks so much. Have a great day, and I'll catch you back here later for another project.